Hi, this is Stephen Mead, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the BullsEye Belief System. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Mead, and this is the BullsEye Guy podcast. Stephen Mead back again, another BullsEye Guy podcast. Again, I think my opening statement is they are coming fast and furious. These things tend to come in very quickly, especially with the amount of travel that's going on. It's always fun and exciting to be back in LA at the Groove radio station. The studios, there's something going on outside. We'll have to figure out what it is. There's a new bar opening up next door. I think hopefully Eagle and the guys at Groove Radio are going to do a summer party here. We'll have to talk them into doing something fun. If you're in LA, keep your eyes out for that. Always exciting. But we're going to go into a topic today, and it's going to get a little personal for me, not in a personal way, but a personal way, which doesn't make any sense right now, but hopefully it will in a minute. I've gone through the 10 steps before, and one of the topics we spend a lot of time on is step one of my 10 steps, which is design your destiny. And within that 10 steps, there's a lot of different elements and attributes. And I think podcast episode 3 or 4, one of the earlier ones we did was all about being financially independent. And we spent a lot of time trying to define what is financially independent. What does that mean to you? What would you do if you had more money? And if you did have the amount of income you wanted and could live off of the interest, maintain your standard of living. That is a true definition of financial independence. Well, then what would you do with all of that money? What would you do for other people? And that's called a shift. It's an emotional shift. But that was just part one of step one. Part two of step one is much more difficult, right? It's more difficult to go through. The financial independence is difficult to attain. Becoming financially independent is a journey and a goal over time. What we're going to go through today are the steps underneath. Once you've got this number in your mind, what do you do next? And it's really the definition of why. And what I mean by that is I'm asked a lot of times as an entrepreneur, as an investor, what's your why? What's your passion? Why do you do what you do? And if we're not driven by emotion and passion, we're not emotionally committed to trying to build a company or trying to be successful. We have to figure out what's our why, what's your passion. And I've developed a process that's not only helped me, but it's helped entrepreneurs along the way. And again, so many of my sayings, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. The greatest strength of an entrepreneur, sometimes a true entrepreneur, is you're a, quote, idea guy. You have lots of ideas. I have lots of ideas. I've got all kinds of them. I've got some, if anybody ever, and I've talked about this, I want a flat pen. I want a different kind of sandal. I'm going to write another book. I have all kinds of ideas that I will absolutely never do. And people go, why? You would be great. You're such a good speaker. You'd be great. Write a book. Be a book author. Well, I'm going to give you the process that I've gone through and developed to help you determine why I say absolutely not, I will never be a book author. But there's a reason for that, and what it is I've developed a process for what's your why and what's your passion. And not only are we going to go through that, I'm actually going to share with you, this is the personal side. I don't normally talk about this. I don't normally share what I'm going to share, but these are my 8, 9, 10 steps and guidelines of when I create a company, I measure every single thing I do against the potential outcome of the attributes that I'm about to give you. Life to me is about attributes. What do you want your life to be like? And the reason I do that financially independent one is if you are financially independent, if you're standing on top of a mountain and you look around and you know in your bank account you've got all the money that you aspire to, you've hit your financial goal, you're able to do things for other people and donate and fund your charities and help your parents, what do you want your life to be like? What would you do with your life if you could lead your life by ultimate passion? That's what people talk about. Well, what's your passion? And unfortunately, a lot of people go, well, my passion is being a writer and I can't make a living pursuing my passion. My passion's being an artist. I could never make a living being an artist. And we short circuit ourselves because we get caught up in the financial side of what we're passionate about versus the reality of what we need to make money and a profit and make a living. And so the exercise in this goal is, if we had all the money we wanted, we're financially independent, and we could stand on top of a mountain and we say, what would we want our life to be like? What does that look like for you? And I ask people all the time, they're like, I don't know, I just want to be happy. Well, define happy. I want to be happy. Happy's not a definition. Happy's a destination. But if you can't define what makes you happy, it's hard to get there. And we used to have all these great things in sales, and one of them I use in my slides is Alice in Wonderland. And again, some of my stories, at least Eagle and the team here understands when I joke about Alice in Wonderland. I think kids have seen Alice in Wonderland. I'm not sure. But there's a scene in there somewhere where there's a Cheshire cat and Alice, and something along the lines of, where do you want to go? And she says, I don't know. And he says, well, then any road will get you there. And the point is, it's like you don't get in a car and just start driving. You have a destination. And if you plug in the address in GPS, you get there a little bit quicker. But if you know where you're going, even though you know where GPS is, sometimes you'll take a different turn because you have knowledge and experience to get to your destination. We're going to try and outline a destination. So I'm going to go through what my 10 are. And I've developed these in the next podcast. Actually, here's the teaser. I don't usually do teasers for the next one. A lot of times I don't know what the next one's going to be. This time I do. The next podcast after this are going to be my top 10 favorite books that I think everybody should read in sequence and why. And book number 1 on there is Think and Grow Rich. It's a little teaser for anybody who hasn't read it. But point is, I learned about goal setting when I was 24. I read Think and Grow Rich as you're supposed to do, aspiration. I read it twice because it says in chapter 1, mentions made in every chapter of The Secret. So I read it twice trying to find the secret. I never found it. It took me 6 times and 300 books before I figured it out. Again, next podcast we'll go into this. But it talked a lot about goal setting. And goal setting was not just to me, oh, I want to make this goal. I developed this mindset of goal setting around attributes. And so I'm going to go through my attributes to show you sort of how this process works and how I've used it as a framework to decide which kinds of companies and ideas and projects I pursue. All right, so number 1 at the top of this attribute list is always personal net worth. Again, that's why we went through financially independent. I'm going to share with you the story. I do it sometimes. My goal when I did these steps, I did it when I was 24. My goal was when I turned 33 to have a company worth $1 billion. That was one of the goals on my list, and I'll show you how they all fit in. And the day I turned 33, I've talked about this in prior episodes, my company, Virtual Sellers, VDOT, was worth $980 million. Not a billion, but close enough. I mean, come on. But again, I talk about the universe gives you exactly what you ask for. You better be specific. And I do this with students. I put on the board, $1 billion. And they're like, yeah, you made it. And I'm like, absolutely not. Well, but that was your goal. I said, I know. And the goal was the mistake. The company. So I write this on a whiteboard. I do it all the time. I wanted a company worth X, and I write a big X with a dollar sign. That X was I wanted a company worth $1 billion. And I got it. But the why, right? X equals Y equals Z. The why is Stephen worth so much less? Why do I only own, problem number 1, I only owned 8% of the public company. Company's worth $1 billion. Didn't mean I was. That was a problem. Problem 2, the way we did the stock transaction, I was locked up for a year where we couldn't even sell the stock. For a year. Problem 3, this was 1999, going into 2000. Anybody that's been around knows there was a thing called a tech bubble or a tech crash. I'd never been through a bubble. I'd never been in a crash. Had no idea what was going on. But I do know by the time we could sell our stock a year later, the company wasn't worth $1 billion. And then the last problem as an executive is I couldn't sell at once. And I wouldn't anyway. I was emotionally attached. But again, having a company and a private personal net worth was there. That was problem number one. But underneath there, I have a bunch of attributes. Attribute number 2, and I've written them down, but I don't have to write them down anymore because this is also, I'm not going to give it away because I've messed up the order, but this is in my passwords. Sometimes the acronym of my passwords are different combinations of my goals. That's one of my life hacks in a prior episode. But number 2, I like building companies that help other people be successful at what they're already doing. I like building companies to help other people be successful at what they're passionate about. And there's a reason for that. I came out of financial services, selling insurance. My goal was to convince people to come to work for me. Basically, what we were convincing them to do is sell life insurance to their friends on full commission at night. Let me go through that again. How many of you want to sign up? Come work for me and we will go see all your friends and sell them life insurance at night over the kitchen table, interrupting their dinner on full commission. Sounds like something you want to sign up for. I recruited and helped train 8,000 people in 6 years, but that wasn't the story. What I learned to do is figure out what that person was passionate about, what they liked and disliked in their job, and then I built a story to convince them they could accomplish all of the goals they wanted if they came to work for me. Did it work? A few. It was pure psychological manipulation, I will admit it, but I got really good at it. So good that it made me uncomfortable because I knew I could recruit almost anybody. And at the end of the day, we were also taught, I won't call it brainwashed, but it was just short of brainwashed. We were taught that you can't measure the heart of a man or woman. You can't measure how passionate that person is. It was our responsibility to give them a job and a chance and an opportunity, and it was up to them to do the work to be successful. But at the end of the day, I like helping people be successful at what they're passionate about. So every company I create, even if I have to distort it in my mind a little bit, even like Moneta Pro, we've talked about it. We've got an enterprise software, corporate barter. Does it save the world? No, but for the person whose job is to do corporate barter, we can make their job better. We can make them more efficient. So it's not always perfect, but at least in my mind, I'm trying to help other people, which again, in my 10 steps is step 2 of 10, what's in it for you? Well, everything overlaps. So I like building companies that help other people be successful. Number 3, I like being around artists, entertainers. Eagle was sitting here giving me some of his mixes on the Groove radio station, which are so cool. I'm not in the car that much, but I've started listening to him on the plane. You know, I have a Dubai trip coming up, 16 hours. That's about the longest I'll be in one location. But again, I like being around artists and entertainers and athletes. I grew up a professional athlete. I'm motivated. I'm not money motivated where I want to and need to be around a bunch of billionaires, but I like being in rooms with athletes and entertainers and billionaires. I like successful people because I want to emulate them. I want to learn from them. And the difference is when I was doing financial services, our market was 25 to 45, married, kids, employed, owns a home. This was middle America. I was night after night hanging around with Johnny Lunchbucket. Again, I grew up in Kansas City and Oklahoma. I grew up on a farm. I was born in the swamps of Louisiana. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I've just learned I like a different type of person on the entertainment executive side versus the creative side. My brother, God love my brother, he works at Ford, loves hunting, loves fishing. I saw he wrecked his car today. I hope you're all right, Brian. But certain people like different things. I don't think anyone's better or worse. They are just different. So I wanted to build a company, moving into number 4. I wanted to build companies that added value in the rooms that I was in. I didn't want to be the guy in there selling, quote, insurance. Everybody's selling insurance. To me, that's taking something out. Again, nothing against insurance and sales guys. They provide a service, but I wanted to build companies that added value, were accretive to the environment, add something cool. So that was it. This one, number 5, I got this one from Sandy Weil. When Sandy Weil, I think, again, anybody that wants to fact check me, this isn't like Trump right? There's a definition of fake news. I got in an argument with somebody the other day who was arguing with me on fake news. I don't like getting political, but his definition of fake news was something that was factually incorrect. And my definition of fake news is the verb, which means when you're trying to fool or deceive somebody. We can both make a statement and two people can interpret it differently. If it was intentionally false, that's a difference. I'm off on a rant, but the point was I wanted to be able to build a company like Sandy Weil did that has 1,000 people become cash millionaires. It's kind of a cool goal. Sandy Weil, when he had, if I remember right, God, it's been so long, he left American Express. There was something that Sandy Weil did when that company went public or got acquired. There were over 1,000 people that worked for him that all became cash millionaires. Janitors, secretary, like you change the family tree and the family history of 1,000 people. Kind of a cool, ambitious goal. What that does is that puts you in a mindset where you're trying to build big companies, right? If it's just about one person, you could build a small company, 5 or 10 people. But if you want to impact 1,000 people, it has to be a big, big, big idea. And so that's always been one of my goals. That's part of the reason I've liked doing these public companies. If I have a public OTC bulletin board company, you can have a lot of shareholders who could potentially benefit if your company's successful. So that was one. Number 6, people laugh at me all the time on this one. Again, these are my personal ones. I'll show you how to use them. No travel. I do not like travel. And I joke about it all the time and people say, oh, but you travel all the time. Well, part of the reason I don't like travel is I travel all the time. And my friends who say, no, I love to travel. I look at them point blank and I say, no, you love to vacation. Travel for work and vacation is different. I'm usually on an overnight or a red eye to get in at 7 a.m. to take wherever I need to go to get there and start my day. Now we've lost 12 hours, not sleeping on a plane, 4 hours. We just returned. I say we, it was John Sutton and I, some of us. I did the calculation. Eagle will probably love this. This is from his old days of partying in the concerts, I bet. Between Munich, London, Zurich, Davos, St. Moritz, and back to Munich, especially that week of Davos, I didn't get more than 4 hours sleep for 8 days. Usually 2 to 4 hours, never more than 4 hours for 8 days. Now, is that work? Some people think it's that fun. But again, for me, Davos was a fascinating experience because I built my life around being able to hang around fascinating and amazing people. So this concept of travel for me was, if I were going to travel, I wanted to be able to travel to places that I picked that enabled me to go hang out with the kinds of people that I want to hang out with. I don't want to be, and again, this will get into why I'm not a book author. As you start looking at these things, if I were a book author, I could write another book and do it and try and get on stage. You are beholden to an agent. And that book agent is going to have me under contract to do a book signing tour. And I'm probably going to end up in Des Moines, Iowa. Nothing against Des Moines. I've been there. I don't want to be in Des Moines, Iowa on a Thursday night at a Barnes & Noble in the middle of November. That's not my idea of fun. Some people might love it. Some people love doing that and interact. I don't want any part of it. Again, I'm not picking sides. I'm just sharing personal, not my level of interest. I spent a bunch of time in Omaha and Des Moines. I don't need to go back. Trying not to. So travel, I built my life around travel where I get to go where I want to go. This one was really interesting. Number 7, I wanted to be able to run a company from a laptop on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Now that one may not sound that weird, but we have to take this in context. Number 1, laptop, again, I'm dating myself, sorry, for everybody that's younger. There used to be no such thing as laptops. Laptops, when they came out, were kind of cool, but not everybody had one. They were big and bulky, sort of like cell phones. Now it's all into one. When I wrote my goals, laptops hadn't really come on. There was no wireless. There were no cell phones, all of the things. Conceptually, I wanted to be able to run it from a laptop, run a company in the middle of an ocean. And the reason that's really important is I hate boats. I don't like being on boats. I find I've owned boats. I've been on them. I find nothing endearing or interesting about them other than the people I get to meet, right? We had Nicholas Frankel on a couple episodes ago. He does the super yacht parties in Monaco, and those are great. I'm on a boat, but the boat doesn't move. It's stuck. But the people are fascinating. But my concept was, can I run a company in the middle of the ocean on a computer, which technically means I don't have to be there? And again, this starts eliminating a lot of jobs. As a student, I was being pushed into, oh, you should be a doctor. You have such good bedside personality management. I can't stand blood. I suck at math. I suck even worse at science. School was easy, but math and science, I sucked. But if I were to become a doctor, if I were to become an attorney, I think I'd be good at an attorney. I'm relatively good at arguing, debating, proving my point. I'd be stuck in the middle of an office. You can't duplicate yourself. You can't run things remotely if you are the center of that. That's going to be, I think, book number 8 in my next podcast, The E-Myth from Michael Gerber, about duplicating yourself. All of this stuff came from hundreds and hundreds of books. I'm giving it to you all at once. So that was 7. Number 8, I didn't like products. I like services because services could be duplicated. Services can scale. Scale's a big thing for me. This was when internet was coming out and technology, and even today, technology allows you to scale in ways you couldn't before. Even if you wanted to do, a YouTube video or a YouTube channel, years ago, you had to be on location. Now, video lets you scale. But it's really a service. Products are all about buying product, getting them in, getting them through the store. For timely relevance, the COVID, coronavirus, CV-19, that's all going on. It's a bit of an issue right now. And a lot of companies are struggling with supply chain, can't get their physical products out of country, out of China. Some of these big locations are getting shut down. Airlines are getting shut down. Malls are getting shut down. All of that stuff is impacted by products in stores. And I had retail stores in college. I learned I don't like products. I like services. I've done a couple products. I love watches. I always collect watches, design my shirts to match. But if I have my choice, I want a service. 9, again, follows under that. I like things that are duplicatable. To me, how can you duplicate? How can you scale? When I was 18, we had a retail store. We had a watch store in Kansas City. And there's a certain expense to that store. You have a lease, you have construction, you have to have your cabinets and your merchandising and your cash register and stuff on the wall. And then if you want another store, you have to pay a lot of money and go find another store and duplicate. You can't scale, you can't duplicate. Electronics and technology allow you to have things that are very duplicatable, and I like things that are duplicatable. And then number 10, I want to be the first in the world to do something, which again sounds kind of weird. And I use that sometimes when people go, oh, well, Stephen, well, what do you do? Like, oh, I build companies. So you're an entrepreneur. You do startups. So I sort of had to refigure. That's why I created the BullsEye Guide, to say I've created a program and a process that I use to build companies. I've had 3 companies, and 5 of the companies were actually the first one in the world to ever do something. And that takes out the aspect of, oh, if you build companies, are you in the same industry? Well, you can't be the first in the world to do something if you're in the same industry, because you've usually already done it. So coming up with ideas and coming up with things that allow you to do all of this. So let's go back a couple examples. Those are my 10. As an entrepreneur, if you can go through and develop these attributes, you notice almost none of them. Number 1 was the only one that had a personal net worth. That was my financial independence goal. And it's a big number. And I haven't hit it since. I'm still trying. I've got it out there. Might happen, might not. But hey, at least I'm in the game. Again, one of my sayings to students, if I shared all these goals, people would go, well, what happens if you never hit it? And I would look at them, I say, I tell you what, if I do hit my goals, my life will be pretty awesome. I've got a personal net worth. I'm helping other people. I'm hanging out with who I want. I travel where I want to go. If I make it, my life's awesome. But if I fail, I can always go get a job and I'll be just like you. Most of the people telling you what happens if you fail, they don't have anything that you want. Stop listening to people tell you that what happens if you fail. If they don't have what you want, stop listening. Again, that's my book number 3 from 10. Maybe I should have done the top 10 books before this. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe I don't know if we can invert the order. We'll have to talk about that. But so much of this information comes out of these hundreds of books that I've read. It's kind of funny. Again, so if I wanted to be a book author, I could write another book, The BullsEye Belief Guy or The BullsEye Belief System from the BullsEye Guy. I've got agents. Steve Rosenfield's always calling me, do your book. If I go down my top 10 list, number 1, personal net worth, never happened. Couldn't accomplish it unless I was the most successful book author in the history of the planet, which I could have as a goal, but I don't. 2, help other people be successful. Yeah, artists, entertainers, sort of in that room, but a lot of these people are successful. I can still help them with my techniques, but for the most part, my audience would probably be a lot of people. Again, this is out of one of the other books. It would be the guys in the seeker stage trying to figure out how to get better. Am I adding something of value? Yeah. Could have 1,000 people become cash millionaires? No. Would I have to travel? Yes. Is it a product? Yes. Is it duplicatable? Not really. First in the world? No. It doesn't give me enough of the things that I want my life to be like. That's the whole point is I have 10 attributes. Every idea that I come up with, I look at and say, if, you guys, again, if you're watching me on YouTube, you'll see air quotes. If this idea or this company is successful, if it works to the level I want it to, how many of these attributes does it give me? And if the company I'm working on doesn't give me at least 7 of the 10 as an opportunity, I don't do it. That's how I make my decisions on companies. Entrepreneurs have so many ideas, and we always struggle with, which one should I do? I spend a lot of time with Founder Institute. Adeo Ressi's created a great group. They're in 30 countries around the world, and the entrepreneur is always there with the idea, and they're always wrestling with their ideas and which one. If you don't know what you want to be, you don't know how to get there. Any road will get you there. So again, I have an outline. I have a characteristic that I measure my opportunities by. Will I get there? No idea. But at least if I did make it, these are all attributes of how I want to live my life. These are all goals of what I want my life to be like. It's different if I were a book author and I made it. I might say this sucks because I'm traveling and I'm in audiences and I'm in markets I don't want to be in. So be very careful. This same exercise can be done personally, which is hard for me to do. Can be done for your family. It's like, how do you define success? How do you define the attributes you want? And then how do you pick it? So when I said this was personal, that's sort of what I meant. I don't always go through what my 10 personal criteria are, but that's it. Every company I start, if I spend any time, has to give me the opportunity and the chance to get at least 7 out of the 10. If I make it, life will be great. If not, hey, at least I don't have a job. So that's my entrepreneurial tip for the day. Hopefully you enjoy it. Steve and me, the BullsEye Guy. This is the BullsEye Guy podcast. Depending on what's going on, I'm going to start playing Eagles music in the background. Maybe we'll find a way to close in and out with some of the cool beats from Groove Radio. But tune in next week. Next week, teaser, my top 10 favorite books. Again, Steve and me, the BullsEye Guy. Thank you.